Hello, this is Amit Goswami. I'm a quantum physicist, and I want to talk about a psychological concept called synchronicity. This idea of meaningful coincidences was originally proposed by Carl Jung, the great psychologist. He got some help from a physicist, Wolfgang Pauli, and wrote a book together, Synchronicity. It's a quantum idea. Pauli was a quantum physicist, you see. Meaningful coincidences. Not all things in the world should be construed as meaningless things that happen probabilistically, or so would the scientists tell us. Materialist scientists who follow scientific materialism. The idea that matter is everything. No, said Carl Jung. He said, and Pauli agreed with him apparently, that sometimes an event in the physical world and an event in the mental world, in your mind, occur maybe because of the same source, same cause, common cause, and this is synchronicity. Meaningful coincidences. How? This is where quantum physics comes in. How instantaneous communication called non-locality. The cause of synchronicity is consciousness acting in that non-local fashion. Action at a distance. Connecting a physical with a mental. Today we call the idea psychophysical parallelism. But I didn't always know that. See, the way I entered the world of synchronicity is partially my own experience. Now I am a total believer of synchronicity. I guide my life with synchronicity experiences, but it wasn't always that way. I knew of the idea. I became aware of the idea since the 70s. And then 80s, I was playing with the idea a little bit. But in the 90s, a series of events happened, and I became a total believer of how synchronicity can be a guideline to make decisions in our life. So how it happened to me, I want to tell you that story. So in 1993, I had published a very important book. Some people call it seminal book. It's the Self-Aware Universe. And naturally, I was publicizing it, and I was getting a lot of invitations too from radios for that particular purpose of publicizing the book. So here I am, my first radio show. And I'm waiting for a question on the book, quantum physics and all these ideas like non-locality maybe. But an old lady asks me, "Professor, what happens when we die?" What happens when we die? Now, that sounds great, but I didn't know. So I just shut up, dumbfounded. I didn't know what to answer. But I forgot promptly about the old lady and her question, because I didn't know how to deal with what happens when we die as of yet. But next came a theosophist in my universe. You know, theosophists talk about reincarnation a lot. It's part of their philosophy. So this theosophist, although he paid the university a tuition and came to me on the idea of learning quantum physics from me, but actually he started teaching me about reincarnation. I listened to him, he has a nice conversation, so that's okay. But I didn't really get into reincarnation. It's too far from my reality. How can I include reincarnation in physics, I thought. But then I had a dream. One morning I woke up with this dream. It was a voice talking to me. Sounded like more and more like admonition. And when I woke up, I could hear the words. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is correct. It's your job to prove it. It's my job to prove the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's a book of the dead. It talks about reincarnation. It talks about what happens after people die, like the old lady asked, and go through these passageways. Tibetans call it bardo. That's what the book is about. And I think, oh my God, I have to find an explanation for the Tibetan Book of the Dead? But now I took it seriously. Because Carl Jung, among other things, also was a great believer that dreams come to us with meaning. It's an important event of synchronicity. I just could not ignore it anymore. And then guess what? Within a few weeks, a woman from the philosophy department, a graduate student, calls me. Her boyfriend just died. She says, my fellow students here are recommending you. They said, I should come to you and you could help me with the mourning. I just can't get over this death. I said, I'm not a therapist. I never had a psychology course in my life. Why do you want to come to me? And she says, no, you understand this life after death, reincarnation. Grapevine is that you are doing research on it. I'm amazed. But, okay, I conceded and said, okay, come over. So we started chatting. Synchronicities, 4 of them. So what happened? Couple of months of this chatting, and one day she asked me a question, and the answer popped out of my consciousness, this idea of psychophysical parallelism. Consciousness is the ground of being in which there are 4 worlds of experience, not just matter, but also mind and vital energies and archetypes which we intuit, 4 worlds of experience. And so what is the soul? Soul is this part that we experience internally, that we have worked out some things, that we learn, like our vital energies, feeling, and meaning, mind. Those are the 2 things that stand out. Aside from that, there is also this archetypal and the whole ground of being that consciousness is. That makes up our soul. Is there reincarnation? I wrote a book called Physics of the Soul, based on the research that I now did, based on this idea of psyche and physical, both are part of one and one duality only, just as Carl Jung anticipated so long ago with the idea of synchronicity. Is this a synchronicity that I came across Carl Jung's work? Is it a synchronicity that I went through all of this? Is it purposeful? Is it meaningful? I'm convinced that it is. Thank you.